Hey everybody, just back from last week where we were doing more of the stuff that was necessary to complete the group work. So, those of you leading the group in person, I still can film it. So if you're coming in this week or next, those of you who chose to do the coronavirus live web link through YouTube Live, you still can do that. Just make sure it's submitted in the right spot so everybody can see you. So with our groups today, we're kind of finishing up with working and closing. So like, how do I close a group? I do, however, have to move this because I don't know why I'm getting blocked by photos, but let's try to play it. So here's where we go, and it's possible a few of you will come in a few minutes, but I wanted to get this moving first.
Hello class, and welcome to our third lecture on group stages. This final lecture in our series of 3 builds upon our first lecture on forming and the second lecture on storming and norming. This lecture will address the final 2 stages in group development, working and closing, as part of our group skills in substance abuse counseling course. As we look at the objectives for the week, I want to remind you to review the chapters for the week prior to viewing the lecture, as it is intended to supplement your reading. By the end of the week, you should be able to distinguish the characteristics of a working group from a non-working group, differentiate interventions that occur in the working stage from those that occur in other stages, and identify and describe the important factors in the process of terminating a group. The working stage is only possible once a group has successfully progressed through the forming, storming, and norming stages. And the working stage focuses on the achievement of individual and group goals and the movement of the group into a more unified and productive system. During this stage, members and leaders feel more freedom to try out new behaviors and strategies because the group has worked through the issues of power and control enough for the members to trust each other. In this working stage, peer relationships are characterized by a deep personal level of concern, and self-disclosure can occur more often and at a deeper level than before. The Johari Window, which is illustrated below and can be found on page 126 of your text, can be used to discuss self-disclosure and operate in the working stage. When they begin self-disclosure, they experience the risk that comes with others finding out more about them, but also the comfort that comes with sharing information in a safe environment. This makes members more likely to self-disclose, which ultimately makes that lower left-hand quadrant smaller, as there are fewer hidden aspects about the member. The blind quadrant represents information that is unknown to the member, but is known to the other members in the group. This may be unconscious or nonverbal behaviors that group members observe and then share, or impressions that group members have which allow them to provide some kind of feedback in that group. Again, in a working group, this quadrant will get smaller as group members are able to provide feedback to each other. The bottom right quadrant describes the unknown, which contains material that is hidden from the self and also from others because of a lack of opportunity to explore it. A working group helps shrink this quadrant as well, as individuals begin to search for new aspects of themselves and feel safe to uncover and explore new behaviors and a new way of relating to others. Overall, members in a working group become more aware of themselves and grow through these discoveries and insights. Group leaders can facilitate this growth through strategies like rounds, where each member gets an opportunity to provide some prompt or address the group in some way. Through role play, where members assume an identity that is quite different from their own reality and allows them to address patterns of behavior or consequences of those patterns in a new, different light. Or through homework assignments, where members work outside the group to try out new skills in real-life situations, and then report back to the group on the experience. Incorporation is the term that describes the process of developing an awareness and appreciation for the accomplishments of individual group members and the group as a whole, and helps members see the value of their experience. Teamwork and team building are extremely important to the working stage of groups, and emphasizes how groups can achieve tasks that cannot be accomplished by an individual alone. Teams rely on openness, honesty, compassion, enthusiasm, integrity, and a commitment to communication. Other factors that contribute or distract from the development of teams include the leadership style, the member maturity and motivation, and the group task or purpose characteristics, as well as the stability and the size of the group, the available time, and the organizational, institutional, cultural, and societal expectations of that group. On page 133 of your text, you'll find a helpful comparison between working and non-working groups. I highlight these issues here as we discuss how to distinguish a working group from a non-working group, and consider next the strategies for assisting groups in the working stage. Working groups are characterized by high levels of trust, and when trust is not strong, members openly express this feeling, while non-working groups have members who withhold themselves and refuse to share feelings, marking the low levels of trust in the group. In working groups, the goals are clear and specific, while goals in non-working groups tend to be fuzzy, and members may have unclear personal goals or no goals at all. Members may feel excluded in non-working groups, but in working groups, the members have a sense of inclusion, and members who might feel excluded are invited to take a more active role. Working groups are also marked by their open communication, accurately expressing the here and now experience, while non-working groups tend to have a there and then focus, with members who are likely to storytell and resist dealing with reactions to one another. Leadership in working groups can be shared among members, with people initiating activities and suggesting certain areas to explore, while a non-working group tends to depend on the leader for all direction, and power conflicts may exist among members and between members and the leader. Working groups take more risk and experience more cohesion, with members identifying with each other due to high levels of closeness and support. Working groups are also able to acknowledge and deal with conflicts, while non-working groups tend to ignore, deny, or avoid any conflict that comes up in the group. Working groups are able to provide and accept feedback within the group, while non-working groups may give feedback without care or compassion, and feedback is often rejected defensively. In a non-working group, conflict is done in an attacking way to express hostility, while working groups use confrontation to challenge behavior with care, and where the confronter shares their reactions to the person being confronted rather than group members ganging up on one another. Working groups are able to share power and encourage diversity, while non-working groups tend to struggle for that power and use power to control others, valuing conformity rather than individual or cultural differences. Finally, working groups have norms that were developed cooperatively by the members and the leader, and which are clear and help members attain their goals. Non-working groups may have norms that were imposed by the leader and may not be clear. Clearly, both the leader and the members play important roles during the working stage, and when groups are not doing well in the working stage, there are many approaches to address the concern. Some of the strategies that your author suggests are probably familiar, like where group leaders model complex behaviors to allow members to copy or imitate the behavior as a way of learning it. Leaders may model self-disclosure or caring confrontation as a way to help their members understand what the behavior looks like in action. Exercises can help direct and bring group members into the action by designing and implementing activities that promote interpersonal and intrapersonal learning for group members. These two strategies, along with group processing and teaching of skills, are where I would encourage you to focus your attention. Group processing capitalizes on the here and now experience of group members and allows the group to reflect on the meaning of their experiences to better understand their own thoughts, feelings, and actions, and then take time to generalize what's happened in the group to their life outside of the group. Group processing is considered a naturally occurring dynamic, but skilled leaders can facilitate this to promote growth in individuals in the group. The teaching of skills can also improve performance in the working stage by helping members feel more confident about their abilities and by improving those abilities. When the working stage draws to a close, goals have been worked on and achieved, and there has been significant learning and sharing of ideas and information. Members have likely experienced an emotional release or catharsis, and may have gained enough insight and awareness that they're able to cognitively restructure their lives, which is to say that they can actually think of and perceive themselves differently than at the beginning of the group. Feedback is an additional outcome of the working stage, with members exchanging specific and positive feedback, which is generally a higher quality of feedback than in the earlier stages of the group. Humor, which we talk about here as being the ability to laugh at oneself in a non-defensive manner, is another outcome of the working stage. As we move out of the working stage, we begin to think about the process of closing a group. This, however, should not be the first time that termination comes up in the life of a group. By setting expectations for members on how many sessions a group will meet, and reminding members as the number of sessions begins to become smaller, leaders can help prepare members for the process of termination. Successful group termination promotes change in individuals and sets the expectation for group members that a new experience is about to begin, one beyond the group experience. Boundaries, both physical and psychological, help members prepare for endings. Helping members think about how termination will proceed can help prevent issues that may stem from unexpected surprises. We keep in mind here that there are two different types of closings: the closing of each session and then the termination of the group as a whole. Similar to my earlier comments, in the closing of a session, group leaders are encouraged to remind members of the time a few minutes before the end of the session, rather than surprise members by abruptly ending the session. At the end of a session, the group may summarize the material from that session, reviewing goals, or thinking about what members might do after the session ends, perhaps including homework. Again, the same tasks are appropriate when the group terminates, with group members reviewing the material and goals that were covered in the group and looking toward the future. Keep in mind that in closed groups, everyone begins and ends the group at the same time, which allows for a great deal of predictability, as the time limit may be known and communicated from the very start of the group. In open groups, however, endings are highly individualized, and the close of each and every session could serve as the closing session for some. When it does come time to close a group, termination can be done in a variety of formats, but may include member summarization, leader summarization, rounds where members respond to prompts or have a designated time to share their own thoughts and reactions. Pairing members off into dyads can also provide time for feedback and reflection, and written reactions can be a really nice way for members to consider their own experience and reactions, and may even offer them a tangible piece for them to walk away with. Rating sheets can be helpful for individual reflection, where members rate themselves, others, or the group leader on a number of dimensions like involvement, risk-taking, goals, emotional involvement, feedback, and productivity. Homework may not be as appropriate in a final session as it is during the closing of a typical session, but some members do enjoy having a specific focus as they leave the group experience. The final closing also includes a capping of skills, which is a chance for members to gain a full perspective on the tools that they have gained as a result of the group experience. The activities that we just discussed, like summarization, rounds, and dyads, can all serve to help with the capping of skills. Additionally, members can assess their levels of change, rehearse behavior for upcoming settings, and finally, take time to say goodbye as part of the final closing. There are many, many activities and exercises that can facilitate the final goodbye, but generally all of them promote genuine, thoughtful, and a hopeful closing for members as they look toward the future. So hopefully at this point in the term, you've taken time to view the first two videos from Leading in the Here and Now. This is our third and final clip, and it runs about 15 minutes, bringing the group experience to a close. Please take time to view this video at some point during the week. These videos may be your best opportunity to observe a group move through the stages we've discussed over the course of the last few weeks. I encourage you to revisit the previous videos if you've not had time to watch them yet, attending to the various issues surrounding group dynamics, leadership, and member roles that we've addressed in the reading and lecture material. Take a look. To review, we now know that working groups and non-working groups differ in a number of important ways, including specifically trust, communication, cohesion, and power. Leaders can assist working groups through strategies including modeling, group exercises and processing, and through teaching skills. The closing stage requires planning and forewarning, and promotes reflection on growth and the new skills that members learn and develop as part of their experience in the group. This concludes our lecture on the working and closing stages in group development. Thanks for listening.
What's up? Yes, okay, that sounds good. I will consider it. Thanks. Yeah, thank you for the update. All right, see ya. All right, everybody. So, as you can see, closing a group, a lot of my experiences with horticulture therapy groups. So, I actually had something I wanted to show you all because I did win an award with a horticulture therapy group that I had done with refugees. And so, only chance you get to brag is with your students.
Next award winner is the John Walker Community Service Award, and that goes to Jonathan Trout. Jonathan has been instrumental in developing and evaluating a therapeutic garden at St. Leo in the Great Parish in Cincinnati, Ohio, for refugees from African nation of Burundi and the Central American nation of Guatemala. His doctoral research focused on the garden project as a sustainable intervention, using ecological theory as an umbrella for horticulture therapy. The refugees were given the opportunity to experience wellness and counseling, as well as increased income, food security, and adjustment into their new community. The refugees from both Burundi and Guatemala face many similar challenges, including low income, language barriers, cultural barriers, average family size of 8, and low levels of education for heads of households. Their needs include childcare, education, income, and overall need for access to desired foods from the home country of the refugees. Increasing the ability to interact with volunteers and staff from the St. Louis Parish, to become more proficient in English, and increasing their self-sufficiency in terms of work to be done throughout the day, and ability to provide food for the family. Jonathan utilizes the tenets of trauma-informed care with sensory-based activities, working in the soil, stretching the weed, pick fruit, aromatherapy for relaxation. In addition to the garden project on the grounds of St. Leo, many of the refugees also take excess starts of tomato and pepper plants to their 4x5 foot garden in the backyard of their apartments. This allows them to supplement their diet by having 24-hour access to the foods they enjoy. By donating, by using seeds donated by the Civic Gardens, refugees have options of the crops they grow. The garden not only provides financial supplement, but also has been a place for finding emotional support and a sense of purpose. This project serves as a model for anyone working with a refugee population. Jonathan also works as social work interns on the garden project as a hands-on learning experience for social work and counseling programs at Central State University in Cincinnati, Ohio. He is also in the process of completing the therapy horticulture coursework and becoming registered as a horticultural therapist. Jonathan did have a short video, and I'll be sharing that.
Hey everybody, I would like to take the time to thank you. For the award, we're trying to film this with 2 children right now, so it is a little bit difficult. But we've worked a long time on the refugee resettlement project at St. Leo's to get the garden going and to have the materials to grow it into a community garden that's secure in the neighborhood, and to get Pacific Garden Center to work with getting them access to land seeds and tools to grow the stuff in the backyard. So I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you and have a great conference.
Thank you, Jonathan, again for your commitment to the profession and also sharing the benefits of horticulture therapy with refugees and also with students in social work. The next award is the Charles.
All right, so that was today. I want to see if you guys have any questions. The big paper, I know that you are going to begin working on it early so that you can make sure to not be behind on December 1st. So that would be important. It is okay if you use the group that you were leading for Girl Circle, any of the different citations there would be fine. So just checking in about that, making sure you guys have everything that you need. I am available again via email. There is some of the senior stuff coming up. So if you wanted to go and visit the University of Cincinnati Graduate School, be sure to do that because it's coming up next weekend, essentially. So I just want to make sure those of you who were taking a look at going down to UC to talk with Nikita, if you're doing your field next semester, also talk with Nikita. Those that still are not registered, here is your chance to reach out. If you don't have this check sheet, send me an email so that I can send it back to you, making sure you're following identically the classes that you need to graduate on time. I know a lot of you are getting close to that. It's actually down to 121 hours to graduate. So good news there. And if you guys had any other questions or anything coming up, I was just finishing with the closing with groups. So
I was nervous about starting group therapy. Just the thought of sharing my struggles and feelings with a group of strangers made me feel uncomfortable. For weeks, my doctor insisted I try group therapy. She recommended a group that meets close to where I live. After talking with my sister, I decided to sign up.
Group therapy is a type of psychotherapy where several people attend the same session led by one or more therapists. These mental health professionals have specialized training in working with groups. The size of a group therapy session varies. Sessions may include a few people to 20 or more. Groups may be referred to as open or closed. An open group allows individuals to join whenever they are able, while a closed group requires that all participants register and begin attending on the same date. Work with your healthcare provider to find a group that fits your schedule and aligns with your treatment goals.
And if you remember, the closed meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous were ones you had to identify as an alcoholic. So we were unable to go into those. but an open meeting is something you actually could go into.
At first, I was worried about whether I would be comfortable sharing my feelings with so many new people. After introducing ourselves, the therapist asked us to share our thoughts. It was a relief to hear that other people struggle with the same challenges that I have. I am not alone. Over time, I started to feel more comfortable attending the meetings. As I began sharing my thoughts with the group, I felt like a weight had lifted off my shoulders. We learned from each other and shared ways to cope with the ups and downs in life.
Group therapy can be beneficial for some men and women. Participants may feel less alone when they interact with others experiencing the same challenges. Participants can also problem solve together and share success stories. If you choose to try group therapy, here are some helpful tips to get the most out of it. Be open and honest with group members. Respect the privacy of others. And always maintain confidentiality. Be prepared to listen to others and to support them in their struggles. Remember, they may be having similar challenges as you. Be patient with the process. Sharing your personal thoughts and feelings with strangers may feel awkward at first, but over time, it will likely become easier and more meaningful.
I feel group therapy has been an important part of my recovery journey. Now I look forward to my group therapy every week.
So finishing, as we learn to lead a group and write a paper on group creation, this is something that you guys will, as a licensed social worker, be able to do. So, closing groups is very similar to termination in the counseling process. So, we'll get into that one next week. I just want to make sure you got the beginnings of it, and we'll see you guys all next week.
All that is good must come to an end. The counseling process is one that is deep and requires personal investment. If it has gone well, then there will be significant personal growth, and the next step will come easily. If there is something occurring that is impeding personal growth, then the next step will be difficult. But regardless of the good or the bad, the end is inevitable. Termination is the final stage of counseling and marks the close of the relationship. Termination is the counselor and the client ending the therapeutic alliance. The termination stage can be as important as the initial stage in that it is the last interaction many clients will have with the counselor. If the termination leads on a sour note, then the client may look back on their time as a waste of effort and resources. If the termination goes well, then this has a multiplying effect as the former client sees that their time was well spent, and this will be one more person in helping reducing the stigma of mental health. With termination, there may be some safety features put into place. Many counselors feel the need to check in with their clients after some time or have their clients check in with them. This is commonly referred to as a follow-up and involves communicating with the client to ensure stability and well-being. It's no different than a doctor's office calling in and checking up on you. If the relationship was not established or the client is afflicted by an issue that is beyond the skill of the counselor, then a referral is needed. A referral is a recommendation to the client to seek services from a suggested counselor familiar with the concern. A suggested counselor will be someone the current counselor knows can handle the issue. Being able to recognize your own limits is a sign that you have developed a high level of insight and skill. If you think you can work with everyone about anything, you are likely going to do some harm. Termination can happen for a myriad of reasons, but can easily be placed under natural termination and unnatural termination. These are my own terms, and I don't believe you will find them in the literature. However, they will help you.